132.
Yep. Number.
Introduce.
Me introduce the topics. Okay,
Yeah.
so the topic is kind of, I don't know, questions that arose from concepts. And maybe there's two questions, and I don't know if they will converge into one topic or if they will be two separate topics. I think it's one topic, but I have not figured out how they are the same topic. So the first one. Okay, so the first one, and I'm struggling with this one a bit. A lot of people, I've said this, a lot of people will be exiting, meaning dying in various ways.
Yeah.
And I've said that this is going to happen, and it has been already happening, but it will continue to happen. And so basically, I, for some reason, brand exiting negative. I don't know if it's negative, but like a choice between living and not living. I would hope living would be the choice.
I would pick living. I'm having too much fun. So.
But they're not, right? They're exiting because they're not.
I assume.
And so I have hard time thinking. So I have placed a negative connotation on exiting. That's what it is.
Mm.
And for some reason, from the human standpoint, I think that a better choice or more fun choice would be to continue to live. And, and as more and more people are exiting, I'm realizing that that's, very much my problem. That I want people to want to continue to live. But they don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So there's that.
There's that.
Introduce the other half.
Exiting is obviously coming from the idea that there's such thing as exiting and the idea that there's such thing as preferred or not preferred or good or bad comes out of split of duality. So I am making that judgment call from a three-dimensional split of duality.
Right.
But lately, after all of our heavy trauma-centered work, like the idea of unsafety is kind of dissolving. Like almost like completely dissolving. It's really strange to say. I'm not saying I don't feel unsafe here and there, but like the predominance of the frequency has just disappearing.
I think it depends on where you are, and when even throughout the day. Like if you're deep down in the densities of I don't know what, then everything feels unsafe. But if you can be out of that, then yeah, the things that are unsafe seem to fall away.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is maybe in my case, I'm spending higher percentage of time being normal, I guess. Let's just say normal, just like in the isness and not in the concept that unsafe is even a thing, right? Like I know we and I have spent 2.5 years, we and I, there's that, talking about it. But after 2.5 years, now I'm like, there's not even the concept of unsafe. Like we have spent 2.5 years talking about how you heal the child that feels the unsafe. And now I'm like, okay, well, after you give it enough space, it turns out that's not even a thing.
There's a lot of things that after you give it enough space, turns out not actually a thing.
But the goal is to listen to this after you have given this enough space.
True.
Goals is not to believe it and go, oh, I'll take Tanya's word for it. No, your body has to feel it.
Yeah.
And after you gave your body enough time and space to feel how you actually feel, then the child kind of runs out of nonsensical juices of unsafety. And then basically, I think at some point the integration is integrated enough. I'm not saying I'm completely integrated. Obviously, I still have a lot of terrible shit that I think and think. Say and think. But after you have enough freedom from like the unsafety being your predominant frequency, you're like, oh, okay, well, it turns out that's also not true. And so then people exiting is like Right. And of course, I got my slap in my face recently when they told me that it's none of my business too, right?
Yeah.
Making these not judgments call on people, but judgments about general
Choices.
choices of people. Like not even particular people, just any people in any choices. And I'm like, it's hard. That's maybe what I'm struggling with. It is hard not to make a judgment call that choosing life versus death is the preferred route.
It feels like the preferred route. It feels like, and I don't know how much of this is conditioning,
I wonder if it's
social
just on
conditioning, and how
safety.
much of this is like, because like our 3D bodies, it's like there's two goals: survive and make more of us.
Yeah.
Like at a very, very fundamental primal level, all creatures, even plants, it's survive as long as you can, reproduce. And so it goes against the survive at all costs.
Yeah, but that's dualistically split the idea there's such thing as not survival.
I know, but like in the 3D realm, that's the reality there.
Yeah, and I don't believe like survive at all cost. I just think like choose like fun.
I mean, yeah, in a
Like right,
in a
like
perfect world, it
at
could
some
it could be
at
that.
some point, like we have had people that we knew and animals that we knew who are suffering and their net quality of life based on their exit strategy. Yeah, okay. At some point people are just like, okay, this is like suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm not saying at that point whatever. But but at the same time, I go back to the Anita Majani story, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like she chose to be dying from cancer based on whatever punishment she chose to put herself through. And then when she, by choice, withered her body away and then died, then they had a conversation with her on the other side of like, do you actually want to die? Like, is there things you want to do? Is there, like, do you actually have this like conversation? Is this actually what you want?
Right, right.
But on the other side, in two-dimensional scope, the suffering was so great that she didn't want to continue to live in that suffering.
Like Jeremy Renner, he
Jeremy Renner.
I don't know if he was clinically dead for a period of time.
He was in a coma, so like, and it wasn't,
Yeah.
well, whatever
By
it
the way,
was.
he saw the other side.
Yeah, he said he
and
died.
and he's like, oh, it's nice over there.
Yeah, no, it's nice over there. So I understand why people want to go. Like everybody says, it's like taking off a tight shoe. So yeah, this experience on Earth can be very suffer heavy, right? But then like my whole point over the last 2 years is like here's how you alleviate the suffering. And so like, but then of course at the same time, after I've gotten to this point 2.5 years later, I realized like, okay, well, everything's just a construct and suffering is a construct. And who am I to judge if somebody wants to play the suffering game for X number of days on Earth and then after that decide to exit out? But I'm like, I know that like, is that a selfish thought that oh, you should try to play this game differently and then more funly? Right? Is that? But that's that's my personal preference.
Right.
I personally prefer to play the game more funly and differently, and alleviate my suffering, and then possibly teach other people how to alleviate theirs. But in the long run, it's completely like my thought that this is a better route.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. It's like it feels that I think I've long held the belief that like anything that can be done to reduce suffering in anything, whether that's, yeah, of course, people, but cats and dogs and, trees and, earth as a whole and in everything, that is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but from the standpoint of our idea of what?
And at the same time, like the most valuable thing on the planet is human life. It's,
Human life or life?
human life, I had it tiered as human life is number one, and then like all other life would be like at number two. It's more valuable than gold. It's more valuable than what do we need now? Lithium or Bitcoin or whatever. Uh, and so preservation of human life and reduction of suffering are like the goals. It's just like, well, of course, you don't even need to. There's no wiggle room for argument there. That's just like accepted as fact. And I have always felt that way.
Yeah, but I think it's a belief system out of like, oh, I want to continue to live, and so therefore surely other people want to continue to live.
And so the logical conclusion is therefore dying is bad and therefore suffering is bad. If we want to preserve this, then we need to avoid that.
Yeah, but you and I've had plenty of conversation with the whole point on Earth is you to come here to experience lesser than scenarios, because otherwise you complete wholeness. And then after you had enough of that, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else.
I mean, I feel it to some degree, this whole like, well, yeah, it's none of my business. And, okay. But at the same time, there's this internal resistance to that as well. And I don't know how much of that is my own beliefs from when I, going like all the way back to.
Do you think it comes down to somebody, having somebody there?
I don't know.
Do you think that like people choosing to exit is eliminating the somebodies?
I mean, somebody like, I don't know. Cause it's like, I'm trying to think how, if it hits different, if it's like, we've had several, we've in the last week, we've learned about like 4 or 5 people who have just recently died or are on the verge of dying from just people we've heard of. We don't know them personally, but like we're like 2 steps removed. We know somebody who knows them. And so it's like, I've never met these people, but I wish them the best.
Yeah. But like, right.
But how is that different from like, okay, it's your mother or your spouse, and it's, it's really close, or it's just some, I assume there are people dying all over the planet right now. People I've never heard of, at all.
Yeah.
Just, whether of natural causes dying in their sleep or, I'm sure there's wars and bombings and this and that going on. And, all of that doesn't sound great. And,
because we're judging it.
Right.
Is it, I mean, it's very much a 3-dimensional dualistic split.
And, okay, what's the alternative? Everybody lives forever? I'm not saying that either.
Well, no, the people who are exiting right now are quite young.
Yeah. I mean, that makes it worse somehow.
Yeah, this is not like they have lived their life.
Yeah.
And then
if you're 103 and you die in your sleep, you had a good run.
Yeah. Or even like if you're in your 80s or 90s, and systems are deteriorating and you had your life. I'm not saying.
We heard of one that was 26. 26? He was 26.
I don't know.
I'm like, ooh, that's young. I don't know. I feel very conflicted.
Yeah, but it's a soul's choice to exit, right? But I understand on the 2-dimensional level of reality, like whenever you are just dissecting everything as yeses or nos, right? And this concept of wholeness is split. When you're suffering and you see suffering around you, then you're like, oh, this is just like too much suffering, right? And through that lens, if, okay, this is just so much suffering, I want to exit outside of the suffering. It makes sense.
No, I say that. I mean, I went through a period of time when suicide didn't sound like such a bad idea. So I get it. Now, I would never recommend suicide to anybody.
Well, no,
but the idea of not being here anymore didn't sound too bad.
Yeah, but you would engage in thoughts and activities that would have you exit without actually taking your life, but in energetic sense, yeah, you're taking your life. right? Like,
Okay.
we manifest our physical ability to heal, and then we
Mhm.
manifest our physical ability to not heal.
Right. It's like the energetic version of like just being reckless. Like if
Yeah.
you drive drunk and play Russian roulette and I don't know, bungee jump without checking the knots, yeah, statistically you're going to die quicker than someone who doesn't do that. So it's like the I don't know, energetic equivalent of that.
Yeah, if you choose not to process all the things that keep your life force away, you're driving yourself towards death. So to me, it's like, I know suicide has this label, but all versions of dying is kind of a suicide. Your soul is exiting, and it chooses this particular flavor of it.
Right. Whether that's 26 or whether that's 103 in your sleep. I guess it is your time.
Yeah,
You have
chosen
at
time.
some level you have chosen that is your time.
Yeah. So I guess maybe the contemplation that I'm struggling with is, why do I think that's bad? Like, it's a shame. Like, I think it's a shame that
Feels like it's a shame.
it's a shame, and I'm like, well, why do I think it's a shame that they chose to exit instead of staying? I don't know.
I think some of it is that we project that our life and experiences and desire to continue living, we project that onto everybody else. We just
Mhm.
assume everybody else feels the way I do. Like, I mean, growing up, from a young age, I just assumed everybody thought and felt exactly like me. And then eventually you realize, oh no, nobody thinks and feels exactly like me.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's probably because it's at such a fundamental level of staying alive. Ooh, 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 staying alive. It's so fundamental to being human. Yeah, you have to be alive to be,
Yeah.
human.
Yeah, well, no, I'm agreeing that they are choosing not to be human anymore.
So it's like, well, of course everybody wants to do that. Duh. And then, when somebody stops doing that, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I need to start like reevaluating
Basic assumptions.
basic assumptions of like, obviously, why would that not be somebody's completely right and total better choice, without any judgment of better or worse, just like the right choice, just somebody to choose to exit humanity and not be a human anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously that happens all the time. What does it matter if somebody does that at 7 or 26 or 32 or 55? You know what I mean? But yeah, yeah. So, like, from yeah, I don't know. From the dualistic split, there's that judgment, right? Like that I think I've had all along, that I may be, probably, which is weird because like, we're recording this podcast, and now that I'm like, okay, well, there's no such thing as unsafe. Obviously, that's a very construct that is the core of the construct. I don't even know. I have all these terminating thoughts that
Don't go anywhere.
yeah, that like don't go anywhere, and in fact are like, wow, is everything was everything
Right.
last 2.5
So,
years of our podcast, and you and I healing ourselves and trying to understand and trying to be aware, and like, and then going, oh, okay,
well,
so we did that.
like if you follow this through logically and you go, well, if you can say that, well, dying isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not.
If you can go there, then unsafety kind of falls away, because
Mhm.
what's the worst thing that can happen? You die.
Yeah.
Maybe lots of people die, but that's just a whole bunch of one person's dying. And so, you know, because in the Western world, for the most part, and when I say the most part, I mean the vast majority, there is very little threat to life and limb. And so all of our perceived unsafety is something that is like, while it feels so serious that it's the most important thing in the world, we're not dying over, oh, did I pay the bill? Can I pay the bill? Oh, these things that, consume us. Oh, am I going to get the promotion? Oh, I hate my job and my boss, and, oh, I need a new car. These things are trivial in comparison to life and death.
Mm-hmm.
And if we decide that, well, death isn't this horrible thing to be avoided at all cost, then these things that are already trivial in comparison to that become super trivial. So unsafety kind of falls away, because what's the worst that can happen? It's already been established that that's not so bad.
Well, in my case, and I don't know if this is your case, the child level of unsafety that I felt when I was feeling the unsafety and I was allowing that to emerge and integrate was bigger than death.
I know it feels bigger than death, and that needs to have its own space.
Yeah.
And saying that that in real life it's not a big deal. I don't want to take away from the fact that it, because I can relate. It does feel bigger than death. All these things feel bigger than death, and that kind of, to a degree, helps explain why exiting is getting popular, because these things, they become all consuming, and if you exit, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Problem solved. I get it. Why that would make sense. Why that would feel like the better choice. I 100% understand that. Still wouldn't recommend it. Right? Even after everything I just said, I'm like, well, yeah, stick through it. You can always exit later.
Yeah.
Right. Even saying all those things, even if they logically make sense, which I think they do to me, I'm still not 100% sold. I'm still like, yeah, but
Not 100% sold on what?
if that like, I'm in no hurry to die. That doesn't. I'm having too much fun living, and like, even if I can understand why someone would want to, I would be like, please don't. Right? But I don't know how much of that is just projection of me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I will say this, and so I don't know. Maybe this is like existential crisis and total misunderstanding of the world at this point. Not misunderstanding, or like very obvious visual of my own personal preference, right? But right, I don't even know where to start. But let's say at some point, let's say 2017, right? I get this jolt of like, hey, things are changing for you, like, right, like whatever it is. Let's say my soul or someone who guides me decides things are going to be different for you, right? And all the suffering that I felt prior to that moment, all the pain and whatever human experience, let's say human experience prior to 2017. So how old am I at that point? I don't know. Let's say 36.
Mm-hmm.
So 36ish. Prior to 36, I'm living blissfully blind to the fact that there can be anything done about suffering. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I'm with you.
Right. So you're in like that pre-awareness that there is even such thing as awareness state. You're suffering, but you don't even know that there's anything that you've done about suffering. Like concepts are out there, but I myself blissfully for 35 years live in this la la land suffering, but at the same time unaware of anything else.
Unaware of anything else. Yes. I mean,
unaware of anything.
and when you, and I'm going to say that when you don't even know of anything else, you might not even realize you're suffering. You are suffering, but you might
Yes.
not label it as such.
Yeah, well,
It's just normal. This is just life.
the influxes of the goods and bads and the crying and
Right.
like the sorrow and the fear
Right.
and the everything that you and I have went through
Right.
on this podcast
Sure.
was the case, and almost without awareness that is indeed suffering
Right.
for 36
A
years.
very Buddhist definition of suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, just like taking on these roles and propagating this thing as if that's it. Like, oh, here's the road. Oh yeah, well that's the road that I'm on. Like zero responsibility, zero accountability, zero thought that it could be any other way. You're just kind of like trying to survive / make the best of it, and you're doing stuff there and you're doing stuff there, but like all blind. But in the midst, you're happy, but you're suffering, right? Yeah. So Buddhist level suffering, right?
Yeah.
And so, right, we go to school through that, we graduate through that, we go to college through that, we graduate through that, we meet each other through that, we have a marriage through that, we have two children through that. There's outcomes there, right? So all of these strokes of suffering are just there, but they make up the essence of our life because we don't even know anything else. And then after 2017, for me, I was like, I think I'm going somewhere else, but I don't know where I'm going. Not because maybe my soul knew, but like my 3-dimensional self definitely did not go, oh my gosh, all the suffering. Guess what? We're going somewhere else. Like totally clueless. It was just one of those things that I almost felt like it was like imposed on me. If it was indeed imposed on me, I'm so glad that it was. But I think it was, now realizing it was this my higher self, and that the higher guidance of the universe went, it is time for you to have a thought. Just have a thought. And at the time, the thought was, I have no idea what was happening to me. But the truth is, at that point, everything that was blind is becoming seen.
Yeah.
Like somebody pried open my eyes, and all of a sudden, you cannot not see the suffering. Like it was almost like that.
Yeah.
Right. So like all the systems that were in place that would continue to reinforce suffering and draw blindness to it, or even remove my personal responsibility behind the choices into the suffering, right? Like now I realize, oh, well, I created the story where I was going to suffer in this specific way, right? And then live that story for 36 years. And after 2017, they're like, okay, enough. Now you're going to spend time realizing that you have created a story and how you've been living that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're in 2026. So almost 10 years later, right? Now we're like, wow, like we designed the story. We come in here to experience a very specific story, and we're blind to that story. That story is suffering, Buddhist level suffering, based on unsafety, and then through different lenses of how would you feel unsafe, unloved, unwanted, bad, unseen, unheard, whatever the nonsense is, but all the story. And then I'm not saying I'm at the point of no suffering, but what I'm saying is you then realize, oh, like suffering is a choice.
Yeah.
Like it's a choice into earthly experience. And I guess in my case, there's a choice that you can take of like, oh, I'm going to become aware of the suffering. And then I'm going to unravel the story and then choose a different path.
Right. Because like the suffering is this byproduct of our, trying to think if I want to use the word conditioning or not.
Story.
Story is a good one. Yeah. It's this byproduct of our story. And it's so liberating and empowering to realize that. It's scary at one hand because it's like, oh my gosh, I've been basically doing this to myself my whole life. And then it's like, yeah, but now I can choose to not to.
Yeah.
And, and every now and then I'll, fall back into it and choose to keep going. And then it's like, what am I doing? Why? I don't actually like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is what's interesting, right? So we are at the change in the world. Like it's almost like a change of guard, right? That's happening right now. That will cause people to have an opportunity to choose a story without suffering and then have this infinite potential of being in a different form, like in a different way of being that we have known thus far, right? And like to me, and so in that regard, the dualistic splits of all the stories will kind of dissipate and leave, right? But you have to be willing to reformat them as a story so you can let it go, right? So like I'm super psyched about what one I know is coming, right? This whole other form of human existence. But it is probably going to be the most honest thing that humans have experienced on Earth in our, let's say, remembered history, right? The choice into suffering and the reason why you would exit because suffering is too much is still a choice to hold on to your story, right? You don't want to let go of your story.
Yeah.
And so, like, to me, then I get confused of why somebody would want to exit believing in their chosen story of suffering. Because I think, right, going back to my story of like, okay, for 36 years, it was suffering. I didn't even know. Then I know it's suffering. And then I know, oh, look, I'm making choices, right? For the last 10 years, basically, the entire retrospect is we've been making choices. What suffering do we keep? What suffering do we not? What suffering do I acknowledge? And what story do I unravel? Or in what story do I continue to propagate? So then I have this confusion, and this is probably where that dualistic split is coming from, is if you see through the story, then why choose to continue to be in it and live it? And I have a judgment about that. Like I have a judgment. Why would you choose to suffer?
Right. I mean, in as much as like whenever people do something that is just the opposite of what you would do or you would recommend, there's a judgment there. Like, you know, sometimes at least.
What do you mean? Like if I give advice to somebody and they don't follow the advice
Um,
or not?
not like, oh, there's, people who's like, the solution is to the problem is violence. It's like, well, that's just not what I think the solution is. And so there's a judgment there.
I don't get it. What are you trying to say?
When people,
You're saying
I'm saying that like in the broader sense, when people do things that are the opposite of what you think they should do.
what I would choose. What I would
Sure,
choose.
what you would choose.
In this case is what I would choose,
What
right?
you would
I'm
choose.
judging it
You would
against
choose.
like
You would choose this, but they're out there choosing the opposite of that.
yeah. But like
You know,
so do you know how some people lock themselves in a circle?
yeah.
I have locked myself in a circle about this, in a way, right? Because to me, it's like, oh, suffering it equates to pain and almost like despair, right? Because everyone I ever talked to who's suffering is not going, yay, I'm suffering, and there's so much joy and love in that.
It's definitionally bad.
Bad. So it's pain and despair, and you almost feel lost. So then you and I have a very obvious solution to relieve the suffering. Like, right, like we spend the last 2.5 years recording podcasts of how do you do this? And it works. Like, it just works. So then I'm like, okay, so now I know there's a very easy and obvious way. It's not it's not easy, but it's
Simple.
to elevate all suffering.
Alleviate.
Sure. Elevate still works because you are elevating your frequency, I guess. But for some reason, alleviate does not come into my pronunciation mouth. I don't know why. There's the other thing. Remember, I was talking on the phone with that lady, and there's a word I cannot pronounce. Civil War reenactment.
Yeah.
Like there's something about the reenactment. Combination reenactment. I don't know. There's whatever it is. There's right. But to that same to that same point, right? To me, like this is my loop. Suffering is painful and people are distraught about it and they're exiting because the pain of suffering is too much and death is actually sweet relief.
Yes.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well.
But there's option 2.
Yeah. And the option 2 is let's not exit. Let's just alleviate the suffering.
Right.
And so then I'm like, and so then because there's judgment of like, well, we shouldn't die. I don't know, right? Like I need to rethink that. Why in the fuck do I think that? And 2 is, why wouldn't you just alleviate your own suffering and choose better? And like, but the brain is just farted itself into this loop where I don't understand human nature. And I'm like, really kind of like still like 20 minutes, 30 minutes into this podcast at a loss of how I'm wrong. And yeah, death is not bad. I understand that death is sweet relief because then you're infinite and you're not limited by lesser than interpretation of energy. I understand that. But like, and I understand that somebody might come here for a limited amount of time to experience just the right amount of pain and discomfort and suffering and then go, okay, that was enough. I'm going to go to be my limited being. That's fine too.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what I'm fighting for. Like, am I fighting? I don't even know if I'm fighting. What am I trying to promote?
Right.
What is it that I'm actually trying to achieve?
The answer I would go to was you're trying to promote life and happiness and less suffering. And I'm like, well, those are like definitionally positive things.
And
right?
I don't know if they are.
I mean, like societally, we would all agree that they are.
Yeah, but I think
consensus-wise, they're
right?
positive things.
Yeah.
But
so I look at what happened to me very much as a directive, right? Like there was this larger than my 3-dimensional interpretation self, like my higher self or whatever, had the directive of live in such a way for X number of time. I don't know why 36 is that number. It is a multiple of 6. We have heard recently, like a lot of 6s have been coming in, right? 6 times 6. Is 6 times 6, 36?
Yeah.
Okay. The math has exited all windows as well. Right. So I live in blindness for multiples of 6, right? And then after that, basically the new directive is, okay, now figure out how to unwind the blindness. And to me, it was such a liberating process of freedom, even though it was extremely painful, right? Like what I went through for the last 10 years was so painful. And especially what you and I went through in like that deep core childhood unraveling of the trauma and the integration was so painful, but at the same time because the amount of liberation you have away from the concepts of suffering and choices and the pain and all that. I'm like, oh my God, so then I think naively then shit, if I can just go through this and not have a solution to it all, and it's actually not that bad, you just have to want to do it. Why wouldn't people choose that? Because I know how much better I feel. Yeah. And then obviously I am dumbfounded because like that is totally my opinion. It's probably my opinion and my opinion only. And I have the premise of elevation and alleviation of suffering is important. Like the prime directive is somehow that's important. But now I'm questioning the prime directive.
Right. I mean, like it's weird because that feels like a prime directive.
Yeah.
It feels like it. It feels like from a very fundamental level, if you were to ask a 5-year-old, they would be like, yeah, that's like, if you could, as far as like goal in life or goal of the universe, that's hard to beat. Promote life and reduce suffering. Right? Get elected with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. So I'm just confused.
But
maybe,
at
I
the same
never
time,
questioned
it's
the prime directive.
I don't know. I think there's room in there for, yes, that may be the goal, but that doesn't override anyone's choice to well,
No, and I'm not.
well, I'm not. Well, that's not for me.
No, yeah, and so the slap in the face that I got is it's none of your business.
Right.
Is a blanket statement to all humanity.
Right.
I'm not overriding anyone's free will, right? And I understand that. But now I'm like, is the premise of my prime directive that one that I experienced, and maybe by some unfortunate truth, I forced it on you to experience this idea of like alleviation of suffering.
Right. Through the fire to get there, though.
Yeah, but that's the only way to alleviate the suffering is to go through the fire.
Yeah.
But like we think it's the fire, and we think we're gonna, like, I don't know, not exist. But we're choosing exit strategies in order not to exist, as opposed to the healing of it, because we think that exiting is better than healing.
Right. I mean, I think like if someone is like at their wit's end and incredibly desperate, then maybe this would appeal to them because there's literally no other option. Maybe. Because I don't know. We've talked about this to a lot of people, and
especially recently, because recently the number of people that came into my life,
it seems like it's a hard sell.
It's an impossible sell.
And it's like, ooh.
So yeah, this might be like literally the last episode of the podcast, unless we find some other topic. Because it turns out that my thought of alleviating the suffering is a false premise, because that's like quite literally not desired.
I don't know. Like
I think my premise in life that I would come here and I would experience suffering and I would find a way to alleviate suffering for myself, right? And then have this new perspective on reality. And then the frequency of Earth with this new perspective will be changing as such to where the humanity is here experiencing new self. Like that's the prime directive. But like maybe I thought there needs to be like this like sales pitch to have more humans to choose to experience this new humanness and new Earth. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe this is bigger than just like my prime directive. Like, do you remember how I said in when I had the Victorian lifetime, and this is in the eminence of the Victorian lifetime, where there was a technology that installed on Earth, and this technology is actually active right now. Remember, like the no more lying, is that the humanity would just wipe itself out because it was too much for humans to take it on, right? But it's too much because the density of the new technology is then offset. Is too much in the net delta to the new technology, right? So the density needs to be lighter, right? Things need to be less dense in order to be able to be sucked into the new upgrade.
Okay.
Right? So alleviation of suffering is actually de-densifying thought.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the more the prime directive is then all healers and all yogis and all religions that teach the true message of love as opposed to the opposite thereof, right? So if they're teaching love, their goal is to de-densify, right? And to uplift humanity into higher vibrational frequency. But if there's religions that teach density, like more fear and more propagation of that, then obviously it would be the opposite, right?
Right.
So if the goal is to de-densify, then you have more humans who would be in the position to choose to awaken, reduce, relieve their own suffering, de-densify matter, and then be able to upgrade to a higher frequency and actually have Earth. There's multiple realities and multiple forms. Go into a higher interpretation of reality.
Right. Right.
So maybe the struggle, so I'm going into like a multidimensional interpretation of this as opposed to Tanya sitting there being confused. Maybe from the multidimensional standpoint, I am surprised how many people are choosing not to ascend with the new Earth and exit out. Maybe it's just that. Like maybe I'm like, oh wow, look at all these people who are choosing not to ascend.
I mean, it feels surprising. It's like, we didn't. I didn't know of anybody who died for years. Then your grandmother died, and then in the last week, there's like 4, and it's like, what?
Well, no, I knew people would be exiting. I'm just surprised.
It's just, but like
how many people are choosing to exit.
Yeah, it's like it was like 0 and then 1 and then like 4 in a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some of them were young. So it was shocking. Even though it was, maybe expected, maybe we saw this trend coming, but it's still shocking.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just surprised about the numbers. Maybe like the delta in like how many, the percentage of population that I thought would go through this versus exit. Maybe I'm like in shock about the exit numbers.
Maybe we need to spread the message further and wider.
No, you're right, but I'm questioning my dedication to do we need to alleviate the suffering? Do people want their suffering alleviated? And I think they might not.
I don't know, because like back in the day, I didn't even realize I was suffering.
No, I was too, right? Before the universe smacks
at the same
you
time,
don't.
I don't know if I had heard this when I'm 10, 15, 20, 25, 30,
35.
35, if it would have made a lick of difference. I don't know. I mean, it's like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. This would have been lost on me in my teens and my 20s. Absolutely lost. In the depths of my despair, this wouldn't have made it. I don't think it would have made a difference.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could go back and sit down with my, 25-year-old self, I don't know what I could have said.
Yeah, but we have a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And he has had these conversations with us and he has been around all these conversations.
He's very much more advanced than I am.
No, but they're super advanced. So what I'm saying is the alleviation of suffering, you think, okay, well, and at no point until your 40s was this even an option, right? Right.
Yeah, right. For me, personally, yeah.
Until I basically forced you into awakening.
Yeah.
So apologies.
No,
for forcing you into awakening.
It's all good.
Is it?
It is.
Right? And so
it is now.
Right. I understand where it came from. It came from I was suffering so much and it hurt so much. To begin with, you don't know it hurts. And then once you become aware that everything hurts, you're like, shit. I hurt.
My resistance was that you were saying, look how much everything hurts and look how much everything sucks. And I'm like, no, everything's great. And you're like, no, it's not. You're not paying attention. And then finally I'm like, oh, everything does suck. And, That part wasn't fun. but it was necessary to actually, be honest with myself, right? That's like the first step. The first step is you actually got to be honest. And there are some truths that you don't want to admit to yourself. Deep down, if you dig enough, you know it's true.
You don't have to dig that deep.
I had to dig deep.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
I had to.
Like we're not.
I had a permafrost on top that was really hard for me to get through.
Chisel,
maybe it wasn't deep, but it
chisel.
was. I needed a pickaxe to get to it.
Yeah, like I said this, right? We just had a friend over for cacao, and I said this, like the design of the system is based on premises of like, dummies 101. It is not none of this. Like right after we have unraveled this like whole our own psyche, after you get out of your way and you actually allow your psyche to unravel and you do the integration and you do the hard work and you basically go into the fire. Like it is not actually that complex at all. Right? So there's no digging deep.
Digging deep.
Do you know what I mean? It's just allowing yourself to admit to your truth, which is what propagates the suffering. Like, I don't know, you read the Buddhist book, Bible / whatever. Right? That's just facing the truth, I would say, is do they talk about that or not?
I don't know. Like, the Buddhist idea of suffering is very tightly tied to attachment and possession. Attachments,
Oh.
and then to which
attachments of safety
is not
attachments of solutions.
Right, and I don't know if this was just a product of the time because it doesn't. I don't think it goes all the way to where what we're talking about, but I think it could be easily interpreted and extended that way.
Yeah.
Like, in a my understanding, in a very strictly traditional Buddhist sense, it's like, well, the reason that we suffer is because we are attached to things and to people and to outcomes. And it's like, whoa, I have a car, and if the car goes away, I'm upset, and now I have to worry about the car and protect the car, and now I'm married to you, and if you go away or you die or you divorce me or you get upset, then then I suffer, right? And so now I need to cling on, and that's the root of suffering, is these attachments to things and people and stuff and ideas and all that.
Do they say that the reason why you're attached is because they are your safety solution?
I don't think I've encountered that, but now that is what I believe now, is that all these things that we have, we're attached to them because we get something out of them, and usually that is safety.
Yeah,
it's safety. Well, I'm attached to the car because I had to work hard and it cost a lot of money, and it's my way to work, and I feel safe because I have a car.
Yeah.
I feel safe because I have a house, and I feel safe because I have a wife, and I feel safe because I have a bank account and whatever. I feel safe because I have a religion. I feel safe because I have I have a body. I have all these things. Yeah. And once you start letting go of needing, it's not saying you can't have a car. It's not saying you can't be married and can't have a house and can't have money in the bank. It's saying that it's the attachment to those things. It's not far off. I think it's in the Bible. It's often misquoted as, money is the root of all evil. The actual quote is love of money is the root of all evil. Root of all evil? Something like that. But it's the love of money. It's the attachment to money. It isn't the money itself. It's that I gotta have it. I have to protect it. It becomes all encompassing, and it's just in your mind.
Yeah, but like on our case, it could be summarized to solutions to all the things that keep you safe.
Right, they are Right, these are solutions. The car is a solution to the invented problem. I need to get somewhere. I need it to be reliable.
Most people's cars are actually status symbol, so I need to be perceived as X.
They can be right. They can all be a lot of different things to different people.
Yeah, but all of it. So everything in life right? It's just, I mean, this is 2.5 years of our podcast is just a solution to keep us safe, right? And so as long as we are choosing to propagate the story of unsafety, life is attachment to things and everything, life itself, the story of our life. Like, I don't know if Buddhism says that, but in essence, like if you propagate it all the way to the end, to the point of awareness and enlightenment and ascension, is the story that you keep alive. You're attached to it.
Yeah. No, I mean,
the entire life. Like if you take all of these nonsensical
Yeah.
side pieces of attachments to foods and cars and wives and houses and whatever, right? But if you go all the way down to the core, what is at the core is a story of a child feeling unsafe, and that's the story of your life. You're attached to keeping that story alive. Therefore, you're attached to propagation of the same suffering that you have had, like in our case for 30, 36 or 40 years.
Yeah.
But then like after you give child the space that it needs, then like you don't have to suffer. You don't even have to be Buddhist and let go of all shit and move into the mountains. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You just have to realize the story that you're keeping alive. It's like, it's so strange. All the religious teachings just like tell you shit, but then like don't take you to the core.
They are,
and I'm like, what is the point of that?
They're all just a level or two off.
Yeah,
they're all saying about the same thing, and they're not wrong.
Yeah,
but it's not complete. It's not complete.
They purposely don't go like the last two steps, and I don't understand why.
Right, the very, very tactical. And here's what you do. Steps.
Yeah, I don't understand why they stop at not giving people the complete answer. I'm not saying you.
Their tails just straight up on you.
I'm not saying you have to make everyone do it, but give them the entire answer, the truthful answer.
Yeah.
As opposed to leave you like, oh, I'm right here, but I still don't know what to do about it.
Right, because you can sense the truth in there, but at the same time, it almost leaves you with more questions than answers.
Well, you don't know how to integrate it. They all take you to the point of like, here's all of your problems. And here's, what you need to do is release all of these attachments. But then the answer is never how. Well, how do I integrate this? How do I allow myself to integrate? I don't know. I'm sure I've talked to someone recently and they said that the teal swan has some sort of, I will say this on here because you already heard this, but has some sort of teaching that teaches integration. Same thing that you and I just did over the last several episodes as far as that teaching. But she had this for, teal swan is pretty old by now, right? So she had this for however long she's been around.
Is that like a paid program or is that like a YouTube series? Or?
I have no idea, okay. Right? But like,
if I can find it, I'll link it.
Right, like you and I had to scramble at it and come up with it like step by step. Right. And it was the most torturous thing ever.
And we took a lot of interesting side steps along the way.
Yeah.
That we were convinced was it. And there's like, well, it isn't that it's wrong. It's just that it isn't the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I think it was, I'm not saying that I'm not grateful. It was completely necessary because I think if like the entire thing were just plopped on us, we would have never made it. But that step-by-step gradual releasing of energy, of density, right? And allowing yourself to heal like an increment at the time, right? Allowed the child, and this is what's interesting, it allowed the child to feel safe enough to where you were introducing more and more truth. Because the reason why you don't introduce truth and actually want to heal, because the child feels threatened, right? So like that incremental, like, oh, look, we can feel this and the child feels safe. So that causeway is being built. So like we spend 2.5 years building the causeway of like, oh, I received this information and look, the child is okay. And I received this information and look, the child's okay. And you're kind of like training your inner child to feel safe as more and more truth becomes integrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it needed to take that long. After it took this long, and I'm like, damn, the suffering is completely unnecessary. And now, which And now I'm like, oh, but it seems like everyone really wants it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is they just don't know any better. I really do.
No, I think they want it. I think they want to continue to live the same lifetime they have come here to live. Like they don't want the narrative to be different.
Well, I mean, like, don't know any better in the same way that we didn't know any better. That didn't know any different. Maybe didn't know any difference. A better way to word that. I don't know.
I don't think that's it. Like between probably millions of esoteric healers and teachers at this point, and all the people on Gaia who are presented various healing modalities, and all the religions who actually touch on it, and all the Reiki practitioners and all the sound bowl healers and cacao practitioners and all that, right? Like we have millions of people who are offering solutions at this point.
Yeah. Which, whether complete or not, or at least steps in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, maybe the evaluation here is just because somebody has a solution doesn't mean that people want it. And maybe I'm just in shock.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that's no different from any of the solutions presented throughout history. Whether that's, Buddha or Jesus or Zoroaster or Muhammad or whatever. They've had solutions offered to the masses, and some were accepted. Some accepted it, some didn't. This is all besides, those original messages maybe being corrupted later. But none of them have been universally accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just got reminded of remember when we were in the Edgar Cayce Museum in Hopkinsville? And like it was like there was this, you saw his life and there was this huge arc of him trying.
It was like a Hopkinsville museum, but had a big section to Edgar Cayce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, what I'm saying is the section dedicated to him was this arc that was the story of his life.
Yeah, it was sad.
It was so sad, but I'm like, I was standing there, and this is interesting. Maybe I manifested this for myself. I was standing there and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this man sacrificed his life. Like, because they said that you need to stop channeling every day because this is draining you too much. And you're not going to be able to live for that long if you continue to do this. And he felt the need to continue to this I guess prerogative to continue to heal and offer as much help as possible, because he would receive thousands of letters a week asking him for help, and he felt like he needed to help as many people as possible. And then World War II started. I think that was the story, right?
It was the Great Depression.
Oh, the Great Depression. Yeah. So he opened his clinic.
Did he open it, or did he just start building it?
Well, whatever it was, in Virginia Beach, he had a dream that he was going to have this healing clinic.
Right. Sounds amazing.
And then let's say Great Depression, World War II starts, whatever it is. And then like none of it comes to fruition.
Right.
And then he has to abandon the whole thing.
Goes bankrupt, I think.
Yeah. And then moves back to Hopkinsville, I think, right? And
I don't remember if he moved back or not.
Whatever it was. But, basically dies without the magnificence, one of his capability, or like his dream for humanity to come into fruition. And, his institute is still going and it's struggling right now, and they're trying to revamp themselves and whatnot. But like, I was standing there and it was just like one of those, damn, the man like literally was Jesus level healer.
He had the answers, or had access to the answers.
Yeah, but we all are Jesus level healers, but the man is emanating it in purest form and offering people solutions to healing. Like in his case, it was interesting because like he would offer them like ointments and herbs and things like that, right? But like, Jesus offered like, know thyself, therefore love thyself, therefore everything is hunky-dory as his message, right? That obviously got corrupted and whatnot. But like, there's the answer. And Teal Swan, whatever Teal Swan had 30 years ago in her class is literally what you and I have come up with. Which like works. It just works.
Yeah.
Or we were watching that thing. I know we stopped watching it, but we were watching that thing on Gaia. And the Reich cancer machine.
Oh yeah, the Reich machine. Yeah.
Right. The same story. Like this guy literally has the answer. Now, not spiritual answer. Oh, it was channeled to him. He has a spiritual answer, but how to use spiritual energy.
Right. Rife.
Okay.
Yeah.
To fix the emanations of cancer
and all kinds of diseases.
Yeah, just to use light energy and frequency to heal physical form.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's sustainable because you need to heal the mental form before the physical form will take it.
Right. It's more of a symptom fixer than but still.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need acute.
If
you
set
that broken bone back in place.
If you combine that together with emotional system healing, you will not have a recurrent levels of that sickness ever again, right? So like we already had the answers. And he died, being sued out of his mind by the American Medical Institute. So
yeah,
this is probably not going to do well on on YouTube. In order to make sure that he's classified as a crazy person.
Yeah.
And none of the stuff ever gets out.
Yeah, no, the whole watching those things is incredibly frustrating because it's like.
But that's where I find myself in that, like, oh, people just don't want it, right? If the masses want healing, then there's not a solution for it out there. And if the masses want an easy answer out with the Rife machine, there's not a solution out there. But the masses want suffering. And I guess like I am for the first time maybe facing the realization of that.
I mean, it is a pain that they're used to. And I don't know. I don't know if they don't. I don't know how much is they don't realize that they're suffering. How much is
they don't. It. Like everyone who come in contact with.
How much is they don't think there is any other option? How much is they think that whatever the solution is going to be worse than the pain that they're used to? It's too hard, too long, too painful to do it. They're not sure it'll work. I don't know. Combination of all of those.
But then, like, how many magical solutions to?
There's got to be a pill.
No, but everything that you and I have talked about, and allegedly the Steel Swan method, and allegedly the Rife machine, and the Edgar Cayce frequency. Like, there's all these people who are offering all these variations of the same thing, right? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, our solution is not the only solution. It's just a solution that you and I have come up with, and it works for us. Teal Swan has her own, and then Rife has his own, and but like that's just like a couple of people that I mentioned. Like, there's probably millions, and yet I think it comes down to the desire to continue the suffering, knowing that there's a different way. Which I know it sounds so fucking cynical. Like, I feel so cynical saying this, but I'm just so flabbergasted right now about how deep this runs. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe this is the last podcast.
Maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what else to say other than like I'm just in shock. I just I'm in shock. Maybe I'll climb out of shock and
Maybe we'll see next week or several weeks from now. We'll see.
I don't know. I have nothing. I almost have nothing to say just because I'm so flabbergasted about my own. Like I almost feel like stupid and naive that I thought people would want the healing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I feel like, oh shoot, I completely misjudged.
I overestimated humanity.
No, I just the amount of alleviation that provided for me, and then basically, then I forced you to go through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, like, oh my gosh, objectively,
I am so much happier and more peaceful and better off than I was before.
right? And so, like, and
And
so still, I'm
and
sorry
so
for forcing it on you, but like,
no, I'm very, very glad. I mean, it was kicking and screaming at times, but I mean, I wish I had done it earlier.
oh no,
I wish
mean, it's everything
it's one of those things. It's like,
is
oh,
aligned whenever it's aligned, right?
yeah, but you know what I mean. I wish I had been aligned earlier, because that would have been just more years of peace instead of slowly killing myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The choice to slowly kill yourself is interesting. I'm confused.
I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. Kind of maybe not the most positive podcast, but Gitty's here.
Kitchy's here.
Gitty's here. Yeah. Their mama is all positive. It's all great.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.